The role of being a goalie in the NHL doesn't just stop at making saves. In a lot of ways, they're able to control the confidence or lack thereof that the team in front of them plays with. And a confident strategy and play style is arguably the most important factor to winning on the highest scale. So today, we're looking at which goalies receive the least and most goals for from their team, as well as what might be causing this. Before we get going, I'd like to thank you all for tuning into this video. The SportFuture algorithm is improving day by day, so make sure to subscribe for future stats, predictions, and contests. And don't forget to leave a like on this video and let me know what you think in the comment section, as well as if you have any other stats you'd like me to look into. Okay, so only taking into consideration the goalies that have played 15 or more games so far this season, we have 58 goalies to look at. The one whose team scores the fewest goals in front of is actually Dan Vladar of the Calgary Flames at 2.33 goals for. Vladar is 10, 11, and 6 so far this season with a .893 save percentage and 2.90 goals allowed average. Now it makes sense that this stat line may not instill a ton of confidence in your team. However, the Flames' wonderful rookie goalie Dustin Wolf, who has a 23, 14, and 5 record with a 0.911 save percentage and a 2.63 goals allowed average, only gets 2.83 goals for from his team. Dan Vladar gets 0.6 fewer goals per game than Dustin Wolf does, and furthermore, I've calculated that the Flames score about half a goal less when Vladar is in net than when he isn't. This is a significant margin, but not the most significant. In fact, it's the 8th biggest difference between a team's goals for with and without a particular goalie. The truth of the matter of Dan Vladar being at the bottom of the goals for per goalie ranking is that the Flames just don't score a lot of goals. In fact, they're 30th in the NHL at goals for with 2.64 goals per game, only scoring more goals than the Sharks and the Predators. The largest difference is actually double this, at an entire goal less scored when this goalie's in net. So really quickly, before I tell you, drop in the comments below which goalie you think it is. I'll give you 3, 2, 1. I'll bet you were thinking it was Eric Comrie, given the difference in his team's play when he's in net versus when the best goalie in the NHL, Connor Hellebuyck's in net. Well, you're not totally wrong in thinking that. Comrie is second on this list with 0.78 fewer goals scored when he's in net. However, far greater has to do with the team that the second best goalie this season plays for, namely the Washington Capitals, Charlie Lindgren, and Logan Thompson. The Washington Capitals are at the top of the NHL standings, so it shouldn't be surprising that they're also the top of the NHL's goals for ranking. However, what is interesting is the distribution of which goalie was in net when these goals happened. Logan Thompson has a record of 31, 4, and 5 with a save percentage of .917 and a goals allowed average of 2.3. Meanwhile, Charlie Lindgren has a record of 16, 11, and 3 with a .901 save percentage and a 2.57 goals allowed average. With these two stat lines, it's perfectly natural for the Caps to play better in front of Thompson. However, the difference is just so extreme. On average, they score 3.1 goals per game when Lindgren's in net and 4.1 goals per game when Thompson's in net. 3.1 goals for per game is good for 20th out of the 58 qualifying goalies on this list. Hardly a bad place to be, and it makes sense considering the Capitals are a great team and Lindgren is a pretty good goalie himself. He's pretty close to league average in many stat categories, and it's now clear that his team's goals for when he's in net doesn't stray too far away from this trend. The crazy thing is scoring 4.1 goals per game in front of Logan Thompson. That is the most out of any goalie, by far. Second is the Jets with Hellebuyck in net at 3.66 goals for per game, which is absolutely incredible, but still almost a half goal less than the Caps with Thompson. Since these two Capital goalies have combined to play every single game for them this season, it's a clear result that the Capitals score one more goal per game with Thompson in net than without him, and score one fewer goal per game with Lindgren in net than without him. This is the highest and lowest of the 58 goalies respectively. So what does this mean? Is Lindgren bad? Do the Capitals hate him? I mean, they do go out and score one less goal for him pretty darn consistently. Well, I wouldn't quite go that far, but I do think there are two ways to look at this stat. Number one is that of all NHL goalies, Charlie Lindgren receives the least amount of help from his team, and for whatever reason, whether his fault or not, the Capitals play well below their potential when he's in net. Or number two, the Capitals just turn into an absolute super team when Logan Thompson is their backbone. 4.1 goals per game? I mean, that's insane, and maybe that's just something that Logan Thompson can pull out of the group with his, I don't know, Logan Thompson superpowers. I think that given how incredible 4.1 goals per game is and how 3.1 goals per game has Charlie Lindgren, a goalie who has middle of the pack stats, once again in the middle of the pack, leads me to lean towards the latter option. Realistically, the truth is probably somewhere in the middle of those two options, but at risk of sounding like a broken record, 4.1 goals per game? Are you serious, Logan Thompson? 4.1 goals per game is just absolutely unheard of. And if the Capitals can pull that off in the playoffs, which is a big if because the playoffs are a whole different beast, but if they can pull that off, I think there is no doubt that the Capitals win the cup. That's just an incredible statistic. So Logan Thompson might just be the guy. The thing is, it's also hard to suggest that Charlie Lindgren leads the Capitals to play poorly. Like, he has a winning record, and the Capitals still score more goals in front of him than most teams do on an average night. But it certainly looks as though his influence on the team is poor, given the inflation of the team's average stats due to the absolute monster performances of Logan Thompson when he's between the pipes. Although the stats suggest that despite being amazing, there are a few other goalies who are outperforming Logan Thompson this season, this stat suggests to me that there's something about Logan Thompson that gives his team more confidence in their play than any other goalie does for their team. All season long, I've been waiting for the Capitals to start slowing down. Like when Ovi got hurt, I was like, okay, it's going to happen now, but it didn't. And then as we get down to the stretch of the season, I thought, okay, well, it'll probably happen now. They'll get tired, and it didn't. Between Ovi's chase and Thompson's existence, I just don't see them slowing down at this point. That said, the playoffs are going to be an entirely different story, and it'll be really, really interesting to see how they stack up against what will be, I'm sure, a very desperate wildcard team in an amazing first round. This stat is just so fascinating to me since I strongly believe that a goalie can make or break what a team is. When looking into it, I really wasn't expecting to see the differences in teams' goals for when different goalies are in net to be quite as large as they were, and the Capitals situation wasn't the only one that I found. In particular, there's a really interesting situation going on in Toronto with Woll and Stolarz that I haven't mentioned yet, but if you'd like to hear more about that, it should be discussed, so please let me know and I can talk more about it. As I said before, there's tons of SportFuture content on the way, including extensive playoff coverage with a huge contest where you can try to beat my algorithm's playoff predictions. Please don't forget to subscribe and stay up to date with the SportFuture community and be ready for everything that is to come. But until then, keep your eyes on those numbers.